We are here with Steve Laity. Is that right? Is it Laity? Lady?
Laity, that's fine. Yeah, that's right.
Laity. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Here with Steve Laity, um, with who was the keyboardist of Guitar Vader. Gonna sit down and ask him some questions just about his time with as a musician and with the band and just everything else.
Go for it.
So before we really get into it, I was wondering if you could first kind of tell me a little bit about yourself, your upbringing as a musician. Um, how did you learn to play keyboard? And, are there some other instruments that you're familiar with?
That's kind of a weird question, but I'll get to that. But so I was born and raised in Las Vegas. My whole family is music teachers or musicians. Music teachers still to this day in Las Vegas at schools. My aunt is actually, quite a prolific music teacher, goes on summits all over the world. So I just naturally, when I was born, there was a trumpet in the house, so I was in band. I played trumpet all the way through my first year of college. And if you're a music major in college, they make you take piano too. So that's where I took piano as a kid, and then I played it in college as well.
Mm. So that's
Sorry
kind of like
any part of that question, but
no, that's good. It's kind of like let's say like kind of fundamentals is keyboard. It sounds like.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think the fundamental of any musician usually is probably piano.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the base building blocks for any musician, really.
Okay, cool. So knowing that, what are some of your favorite like albums, artists? Doesn't have to be music; it can be movies, games. How what are some of these things, and how do they inspire you? And
Yeah, man, that's a long list. Music wise, I first concert I ever saw was Stone Temple Pilots in 1994. My uncle was a roadie, and he took us to see Stone Temple Pilots here at the Aladdin Theater in Las Vegas, and I got to go backstage, and I actually got to see, hung out with the band. I was like 13 years old, dorky little kid with glasses and a comb over, tucked in shirt, and I remember seeing Scott Weiland shooting up heroin in the bathroom. But I like Stone Temple Pilots. They're not my favorite band. Even before that, the band that made me a music fan like I am today is probably Yes. They have a lot of keyboards in it, but I was a huge Yes fan. Prog rock for a long time. I'm a huge prog fan. But lately, things change.
right.
More recently, like I like a lot of classic rock bands like Styx, Queen, Scorpions, Van Halen, and then more modern stuff. Like I like 311. I like metal stuff like Ghost, Sepultura, Metallica, that type of stuff. So I'm pretty varied in what I listen to. But I would say my favorite three bands of all time, not including Guitar Vader, probably Yes, Styx, and 311.
Oh, very nice.
It's a weird mix, I guess,
but those are great. So like going back to the first question, would you say like keyboard is like you mentioned like like talking about keyboard again and yes, like would you say it's like your fundamental, not fundamental, that's like your bread and butter keyboard. It's what you like, it's what you are familiar with.
I would say I was more of a fan of the keyboards and listening to them, like Rick Wakeman or Dennis DeYoung of Styx, Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater. I'm not like a great keyboard player, right?
Oh.
Like, I could play the keyboards, but really, I played what Ujuan and Miki wanted me to play, and then I would add things for live shows. And they would either accept it or they wouldn't. I would work for weeks on some of this stuff, and they would like in an instant be like, "No, that sucks," or "No, that's cool." So yeah, I would. Yeah, I would never consider myself a great keyboard player, but
okay then. Well, Um, Interesting to know that.
If I
Uh,
was, I'd still be in a band, right?
yeah. Well, that's actually my next question is outside of Guitar Vader, have you played in other bands? Are you playing music now?
I played. I played when I was in Japan. I played in Swinging Popsicle, and funny enough, there's probably more Swinging Popsicle stuff available on the internet than Guitar Vader. And then
I've done a lot of it.
I did some one-offs with other bands. One of my favorite bands is called Budo Grape. I think I
Hmm.
sent you a link to their stuff.
Yeah.
I got to play on one of their songs, which was a great memory for me. So yeah, I played in Swinging Popsicle and Budo Grape after Guitar Vader.
Cool. Uh, Something I was curious about was like I know you definitely did like the live keyboard for shows and stuff. Were you ever like on um, yeah, Happy East or Dawn? Any of the stuff on those?
That's a weird story that I don't think I've ever really shared with anybody. Ujuan had told me that myself, and Suzuki were going to play on Happy East,
Hmm.
and specifically Age. That was the first song that I heard off Happy East before it was an album, and they just never called us in to record. I don't even know if this Suzuki actually plays on that.
Hmm. Interesting.
He's listed. I don't know if he actually recorded the drums for that or not. Don't hold me to that, but I remember having that conversation. It was
Yeah.
really an Ujuan and Miki joint.
Hmm.
Plus, honestly, they didn't have the money to have like a big recording studio or anything like that. I think they
Yeah.
did most of it from their apartment.
Oh, really? I didn't know that much. Interesting. Yeah, because I've seen you like on some of those music videos that you've uploaded to YouTube and stuff, and like you're kind of like a face of the band, but like I wasn't sure if you were like on any of the recordings. So it's interesting.
No, I was supposed to be on Age. No, I'm not. I always wanted to be, but it just never worked out that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just the honest truth, unfortunately.
Oh, it's all good. Interesting to know. I just learning about this stuff in the past is just so cool to me. Even if it's not like the most mind-blowing thing.
Yeah, no, I wish I could say different, but
All good. So I think sort of transitioning into talking more about the band. You and I have talked about this a bit already, but for those who might not know, can you really talk about how you met Miki Ujuan and you meet Suzuki at that event too, right?
um, I had to think about how I met Suzuki. How I met Guitar Vader. Yeah, so yeah, it's actually online if you go to my YouTube channel, Guitar Vader Live in Shinjuku. It's a really bad video, but I put it up anyway because that it can't be fixed. Maybe it could be fixed now. I don't know, but it's an old reel tape, and I filmed majority of their concert as a fan, and I
Hmm.
met them for the first time afterwards, and we talked, and so I went back to school after that, visiting Japan that summer, and I started emailing with Ujuan, and because of just I don't know, just the way I am, I was so into Guitar Vader that I was showing all my friends and everything, and I had started studying Japanese. At the time, I had a Japanese girlfriend, and Guitar Vader was like the number one thing I was into at that time. And so my buddy George, who was my Japanese teacher, I played it for him, and then we started talking about it. He went to Japan without me, and I told Ujwan to meet him, and then George bought a couple boxes of their CDs, which is a big deal for them.
Hmm.
Probably just from that one transaction, they sold 100 CDs, which
Oh
doesn't
wow.
sound like a lot, but that was a lot for Guitar Vader. So George bought those and brought them back to the States. He started selling them on his website. And keep in mind, this is before like Amazon and all these things were a thing. So he started selling Guitar Vader CDs on his website because I introduced him. And because of that, Ujwan and I became really good friends. And then he sent me like a signed CD of, um, was it Dawn?
Hmm.
So that's kind of how that happened.
Cool.
And that,
That's
well, I mean, to continue on that. So after all that, I moved to Japan, went to a couple of their shows, and I was always complaining that they didn't have a keyboard player. And so one day I was walking to work, and Ujuan called me out of the blue, and he was like, "Hey, man, um, you can join the band as a keyboard player, but we're not going to pay you, and you have to buy your own stuff." So I said, "Of course." And then I went and met them in Shibuya, and me, Miki, and Ujuan, we went and bought a keyboard. And funny side story to that is when we did that, we actually met the lead singer of Stone Roses at that same time.
Oh, cool. That's where that picture came from, right? The one that circulates around of all you looking at the camera. I think like the camera's on here. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it might have been from that same day. I don't remember.
Yeah.
We actually took that photo from the same stairways where, if you play Jet Set Radio and you're in
Oh,
the
yeah.
the bus station, it's like one of the first levels, if not the first
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
When you're skating around on the bus levels, we took it on the steps of that same area where that was modeled off of.
That's so sick. Small world, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about how George brought back some CDs. Uh, was this after Jet Set Radio, like kind of like
This
propelled Guitar Vader, or was this before?
this was after. This was I wouldn't be a Guitar Vader fan without Jet Set Radio.
Okay.
And even after Jet Set Radio Future, like everyone else, I played those games. I'd guess Jet Set Radio is probably, my favorite game of all time.
Hell yeah, man.
I mean, I played it probably and beat it probably, I don't know, 50 times, 100 times, mainly
Same
because
here.
the music.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that stuff happened afterwards. Because I was such a fanatical fan. In fact, I got into a lot of those bands from that soundtrack, like Chiba Mato, Scapegoat Wax. A lot of the bands from those soundtracks I got really into.
Get over
The
here.
guitar,
Sorry.
Guitar Vader was special for whatever reason.
This is my sorry not to get like a professional. My
That's okay.
girlfriend is listening and she loves Jet Set Radio too, so I thought
Um,
I'd just call her in. Um, if somebody on the subreddit wanted to know, then where was it? I had it written down. Uh, so even though you were there kind of after the fact, do you have any insight about how Jet Set Radio did like propel Guitar Vader? I mean, did they tell you retrospectively about sort of before and after they got big because of that?
I wouldn't say Guitar Vader ever got big, really.
No.
They had more fans show up at their shows in Japan.
Big
Even,
relative.
yeah, I mean, they definitely saw an uptick. They were playing shows that they normally wouldn't get to play. Like for Sega events and things like that. They did a Power Records gig, which I think you can probably Google and find out more about. And even when I was still in the band, they still had, some crazy hardcore fans that were like all about Jet Set Radio. But, a lot of people, actually Guitar Vader is way bigger outside of Japan than they ever were in Japan.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to Japan and you go to see a live show, there's probably, 4 to 6 bands playing every night. And Guitar Vader in Japan, we were just another one of those bands. Sometimes we got to be the headliner, sometimes we were the opener. It just depended on the gig and the other bands playing with us. And that caused a lot of bitter. I think Miki and Ujuan felt that they should have been bigger than they were, or at least felt that. I mean, they were really hardcore into it. And they were great musicians, great songwriters. But even music today here in the States, it's really about looks, and more so in Japan,
Yeah.
looks are more important than music a lot of the time.
I was reading they have like a biography on their website, the Bay Records website way back when, for the Wayback Machine, and Taichi Ohira, is that his name, the Bay Records guy? He was sort of lamenting the same thing about how like musically Guitar Vader was like so solid, and I mean, it still is very solid. Like the stuff holds up, but like the sort of the zeitgeist in Japan over there was like he's talking more kind of like about um, idol culture and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word, but maybe like sort of the prototype of idol culture. So yeah, I know what you mean. It's
Yeah, no,
unfortunate.
no, that's true. It's for me, I never cared about any of that stuff. I didn't care about what anybody looked like. But if you were to compare Miki, Ujuan, myself, and Suzuki compared to like a boy band or one of the idol groups of the day, Morning Musume or something like that, there's no chance. So specifically for them, that was something that held them down. But they did do some background work for idols. They wrote songs for them on the side, things like that.
That's cool. Yeah.
And
I think
Suzuki's still heavily involved in the music scene over there.
yeah, and I wanted to ask about him too later because I know Miki and Ujuan have really put the sort of band behind them, but I know you are obviously we're having this interview are very open to it, talking about the past and stuff, and Suzuki too. It sounds like.
Yeah, he's not as open as I am, just because I was a fan at first, and so was Suzuki. Like we had a guy reach out to me from a video game company. It's done some great games that we've probably all played, saying he wanted to put Guitar Vader in one of his latest, upcoming video games. Again, is there any way I could help him out with that? So I put him in touch with Suzuki, and he went to Japan and met him, and nothing came of it. It's same thing that everybody, same obstacle everybody runs into.
That I'll go ahead and skip to that question because it sounds relevant. A lot of people uh, ask about Guitar Vader getting on music streaming sites, and I know Barry Records at least is like owned by Sony Music, if that's correct. Um, what would a route look like for those interested about having Guitar Vader on these sites? Is there a route even like for anything up to From Dusk?
So I'm going to answer this the way I can, and then I'm going to have my buddy Dave here, who's an expert on this. If I miss something, I'll have him fill in the gaps. But the reality is, myself, Dave, and George and Japan Files, we could never get a hold of Barry Records. That guy, he just disbanded, didn't want anything to do with it. And I
Mm.
believe at one point on his website, he just released everything for free, because that's what he said. But contract wise, it doesn't work that way, right? So he can say that, but that doesn't mean that, we can take Guitar Vader and just sell it because he said that on his website. If we were to list those songs and release them for free, do I think we would get sued? I don't think so. But if anything, like if for whatever reason, let's say Guitar Vader appeared in a AAA movie or something, then we would get sued for it, right? So anyway, back to the question. We tried. We went to it was a company called UK Projects, which was a step up label from Barry Records. So Barry Records was just a very small indie label, and then the
Right.
next label above that was called UK Projects. And I believe, and back in the day, so we went to UK Projects and met them with Japan Files, and we were bringing bands from Japan to America all the time. And one of our number one goals was to get the rights to Guitar Vader music. We wanted to use it for videos. We wanted to sell it. We wanted to do all sorts of stuff, just for our little small Japan Files website. We wanted to do that stuff. And I remember specifically went to that meeting and they didn't even know who Guitar Vader was.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was disheartening. They promised they would look, but they never looked. A few years later, as Japan Files got bigger, we started making a name for ourselves as far as bringing big acts to the States. We actually went to Sony and met with them. And I don't remember the guy's name, but we met with Sony, and they wanted us to push, what was the name of that band, Dave? The two girls. It was like Puffy Ami Yumi. Remember the... Anyway,
girls,
some big idol act they wanted us to pick up there, and it ended up not happening. But when we were in that meeting, we asked about Guitar Vader. They said they would look into it, but instead they pushed the artist they wanted to push at the time for us. So they never looked into it. They never did anything for us on it, and they didn't really care or understand why we would care. So for anybody who wanted to get Guitar Vader on Spotify or whatever, because I get these messages probably once every few months.
Yeah.
People asking about it. And I've had like the guy who runs Guitar Vader YouTube, like he has all the videos. He tried to do it once too. It's a dead end. I think the only way to have that would be to have some serious money.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. So my buddy Dave here, he says it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's tough, you know.
Yeah. I sort of knew the answer to that, but I mostly asked to have it on the record because I know you do get asked that pretty frequently.
If I could have, dude, if it could be done, we would have already done it. You know.
Yeah.
And honestly, it would probably lose money, but I would still do it. I would still pay for it to do it.
That'd be rad. I don't know. Maybe you got to get a GoFundMe or something someday. Who knows?
What could happen is Dawn and Happy East. Those could be done.
I was going to ask, who owns Plug's house?
Ujuan and Miki. They own it.
Sick. Are you aware if they still own it? I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't, but
oh yeah, at the end. So like I said, somebody could put those up on Spotify and probably get away with it. But if it meant, okay, my buddy's shaking his head, so no, you couldn't, I guess. But anyway, they still own it. They haven't done it for a reason. They probably don't care. And honestly, the money that they would get from it is not worth it.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be a downer, man. That's just
no, you're good. It's just the reality of it. So I know it's another thing you get asked a lot about, but again, I'm going to ask it just so you can speak on it. Do you keep in touch with anybody from Guitar Vader, like Miki, Ujuan, Suzuki? Do you keep in touch with anybody like tangential to the band either? Like, it sounds like not the Berry Records guy. Do you talk to Hideki Naganuma, perhaps, for example?
So I do talk with Suzuki. I could send him a text right now. If I go to Japan, we could hang out, no problem. And I try and help him out. He's trying to distance himself from it a little bit, I think, because he wants, like, he has some people contact him and be like, oh, I only know you from Guitar Vader, or ask him questions about Guitar Vader, and his way of thinking of it is like, oh, that was a long time ago. You know, I do other stuff. But yeah, Suzuki and I are still friends. I don't talk to Ujuan and Miki, unfortunately. I don't really know why that is. I can't speak for Ujuan. He was in the hospital. I went and saw him in the hospital. And we had, we were supposed to go on tour in America. I think I forwarded you one of the emails that I had sent back to the Japan guys saying what kind of shape that he was in at the time, which I had forgotten myself. But I remember meeting him there. And I think him being hospitalized is what kind of ended the band, because, Miki just took care of him for 6 months or a year or whatever, however long it was, until he got out. And yeah, the last time I saw Miki, and I went to a party at Suzuki's house and Miki was there, and we were all drinking and eating. And she said that she had done music her entire life and that she didn't want to do it anymore. That she had to try something else. And I know she had her family owned a restaurant. So I think she went into the family business, but I don't know. I never saw her again after that night. And then I never talked to Ujuan again after seeing him in the hospital. And my own personal opinion on it is, so I know that he ended up dating and marrying a Guitar Vader fan who would come to our shows. I didn't know her. I didn't know her name. but that's what happened. She was a fan. She would come to the shows, and he ended up marrying her and leaving Miki after Miki had taken care of him in the hospital for so long. You can imagine how that would have a negative effect on the relationship. And
Yeah.
I personally don't care. Like, I mean, I understand. Like, I'm a Guitar Vader fan at heart. Even though I got really close with those guys, I don't hold. I mean, I get it, right? So I think Ujuan just kind of dropped off from the planet after that, and I can't speak for him, but I can only assume that maybe he feels guilty about it, or he feels some kind of responsibility to explain that to me or something. But I don't care. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Miki is an awesome person, an awesome musician, but she was hard as steel in the practice studio and concerts and in person. Like, if she was in the room, she was the boss. So I don't necessarily hold it against Ujuan for wanting to get away from that.
I see. So something I'm curious about. There's a rumor about before you guys had like officially disbanded and stuff. There was a album you guys are working on after Happy East. Can you like confirm or deny that? Can you speak to that any?
Yeah. So before Ujuan got sick, when we were supposed to go to America, we were doing rehearsals for America. And actually, my friend Tom got to go to one of those rehearsals. He recorded it, and then he lost the recording, which is a real shame. It was all of us in the studio. But anyway, my buddy's showing me some nasty clips behind it, trying to lose my train of thought. Anyway, yeah, so Ujuan told me that they had a new album and it was finished.
I remember that.
And I know that Suzuki had a couple clips from it. And he might have sent them to me at some point, but they were not like, there weren't anything finished, but they were complete songs that just needed to be refined. Ujuan told me the album was done. They just needed to produce it.
That's really cool. I'm just to know
in
that.
fact, I asked Miki about that, and she said she would never put it out. They would never, because it wasn't finished, like completely, to the quality that they would expect. And so I never heard it myself, other than maybe a couple tracks. But I know it existed or exists.
What puts me in a difficult situation. Would it be fair to like ask if that could be released someday, or is that kind of like out of the question?
I wish I did. I would love to hear it. I don't know only Ujuan or Miki have it, and who knows? Maybe they, in a fit of rage, deleted it. Or whatever computer they had at home, if it even still works. I don't know.
You were saying Suzuki might have fragments of it or something?
Yeah, he might. I should send him an email about that. I probably have in the past. I should ask him about that.
I'd definitely be curious about it. But yeah, that would be sick. Well, thank you for speaking on that one. That was my favorite question. That was one I wanted to know the answer to the most.
Yeah, no, I know it was created. I never got to hear it.
Did you have like a name for it or anything?
No.
How many tracks,
I have no idea.
Okay.
I would, full album.
There was let's see if I can grab it. Got my CDs right here. On the back of Happy East, I don't know. It said Happy West and like pointing towards the on the map of Happy, on the album art. I thought Happy West would kind of be a good like lost media name. Anyways.
That's so funny that you mentioned that. That's probably what they were going for, honestly. Well, because like From Dawn, Dusk, Happy West. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it was at all.
If you can find anything more about that, that would be really
Yeah,
cool.
I'll ask Suzuki. You know, I'm gonna have to just meet him in person and get him drunk.
Get all those industry secrets out of Suzuki.
Yeah. In case you're not going to ask this question, I just want to tell a story real quick
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
how important it was for Ujuan and Miki to record an album. And I might have typed this out for you, but when I first joined the band, they took their money and they paid a professional production studio to like tie up Happy East after they had done everything.
Mm.
And we went to this studio. It was in Roppongi, Tokyo. And I remember it was, you know, super silent, you know, just a professional recording studio. And they were going to mix and, you know, change all the levels of Happy East. And there was a moment there that they, you know, Ujuan and Miki, they brought the only recording of Happy East on, you know, it's not even, it wasn't like an SSD like we have now. It was the traditional hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
They brought it there and the guy couldn't read it for like 30 minutes, the producer. And he said it was, you know, he thought it was dead. And so Ujuan and Miki, they booked, you know, like 2 hours of this guy's time, which was thousands of dollars. And we were all sitting there and the guy couldn't get it to play. And there was a moment for like 15, 20 minutes where they just started crying and hugging each other because they thought that their creation was gone. And that's when I knew, like, this is not, they were really passionate about, this was all they cared about in the whole world. They were really trying to make it with music. And this thing that they had created, they thought had been lost. And then all of a sudden, the studio guy, he figured out the file system or whatever it was, and he got it to play. And I remember them just like crying and hugging each other, tears of joy coming down their face. And that's when I realized how important it was to them, which endeared me to them even more. Like,
Yeah.
And yeah, I was happy to be there, but it was just this crazy moment of they only had it in one spot. It wasn't in like recorded multiple areas. If this drive gets lost, Happy East is dead, you know.
Oh my God.
So I wanted to share that. And then,
That's
sorry,
incredible.
my buddy Dave wanted. What did you say, Dave?
I was saying, you know, there's so much interest in releasing the old material or finding old unreleased material. And I think American fans have a very different view of unreleased or old material than Japanese music market does. You know, you understand that.
Yeah.
It's not cool
Yeah.
the same way it is in America.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, that's interesting. So like lost media maybe, or like, I don't want to say lost media, but like that sort of stuff is not as like, I don't know, not preserved or cared about perhaps in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, it's preserved in old record stores. Like I'm telling you, man, if you went to Tokyo, you spent all day looking for every Guitar Vader album, I'm pretty confident you could find it. You know, like if you hit every music shop, there's a Guitar Vader CD in every one. At least there used to be, you know.
Yeah.
He's right in that regard. You know, here in the States, every band is kind of promoted. Like in Japan, that's not the case. Like once I can think of a million artists that were popular, not a million, but you know, plenty of like top of the chart artists that were popular in Japan when I lived there, that just aren't even around. Nobody even remembers them anymore. The only way it's kind of remembered, and if you were like top 10, the only way it's kind of remembered is in karaoke. And if you weren't in karaoke, then you're kind of forgotten. So when, as an American, if we go back and ask Japan for these old bands, they don't care. It's not a priority for them, you know. They're more likely to say, hey, instead of you guys taking this Guitar Vader stuff, take this new artist we have and push that. They don't understand that their new artist sucks and that, you know, people over here like Guitar Vader more. They don't see it that way or understand that.
When you say this, is this sort of the general vibe or the general culture over there? Or are there like sub communities that do feel like that like music preservation is important and stuff.
I guess the only ones who would think music preservation is important are the bands themselves, the lower level indie bands that are doing things themselves. But yeah, it's not like you're.
It's because I mean these questions are important, or these answers are important because, like you said, like a lot of Guitar Vader fans are from America or Western and everything. So
Yep.
it's interesting to get that out there. Something that somebody wanted to know was talking about like Western influence. Are there any specific examples of a Guitar Vader song that you know of that were like directly inspired by an American song or a Western song? For
Um,
example, I was thinking that Heavy Metal Collector sounded a bit like uh, Space Oddity. I don't know if that is a
uh,
coincidence.
maybe I'd have to listen to it again. Um, he could be right. I know there's like Age is heavily influenced by Come As You Are by Nirvana.
Okay.
And I never noticed that until somebody mentioned it to me. But yeah, it's they basically took "Come as You Are." Both great songs. I love "Age," and then there's "As Your" was it? I'm messing this up. The Beatles song "As Your Bird Can Sing." It's like track 2 from Dusk. They kind of took the guitar riff from that. I will say that Ujuan and Miki were massive Beatles fans. When I went to Ujuan's apartment, he had every Beatles album on his ceiling, like near the ceiling, but lined his ceiling.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they loved when I hung out with them. Stuff there. Well, Pixies. They were huge Pixies fans.
I love the Pixies.
Yeah, in fact, when I was looking for that CD, that mp3.com CD, I found the Pixies mix that Ujuan gave me, and he drew the Guitar Vader logo on it.
Oh, that's
A
nice.
mix of his favorite Pixies songs. So stuff I know they were the Beatles #1, and then after that they were really into the Pixies. They really liked the Strokes when they first came out.
Talking about From Dusk, there's a song on there. I'm not really good with Japanese, but it's translates to soft. I think it's like track 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds a lot like "Sound of Fear" by the Eels. I don't know if that was a coincidence either, but
yeah, these are things I need to write down and check. I've never checked. I always loved playing that song. That was probably my favorite song to play, honestly.
That's probably one of my favorite songs to listen to.
Yeah, it's a killer song.
Yeah.
I didn't write it, so I can say that. I'm speaking as a fan.
Actually, I did want to talk to you sort of about your involvement in like writing songs. I guess just in general, outside of Guitar Vader, like what is your creative process like?
Yeah, so I've written a lot of songs with my brothers and stuff, just dumb stuff for fun. I wrote stuff for Guitar Vader and Swinging Pop School that wasn't reflected on the albums, but we would play it live. Yeah, I've done a lot of dumb stuff on YouTube, not stuff that I necessarily want to share here, but
No, all good.
my buddy's pushing me to tell you what it is, but
you didn't have to recording stuff.
No, just some dumb stuff. Actually, it's nothing. I wouldn't even call it songwriting. Just dumb stuff. We did a dumb song for the internet, and it ended up on VH1 as like worst internet videos.
Oh no!
Yeah, it has over 1 million hits on YouTube, but my name's not on it, so you would never know that we did it. But it was my friend and I in college. That was actually before I joined Guitar Vader, so it's so dumb right now. I wouldn't ever want to put my name on it.
Can you tell me later? I won't tell.
I'll just tell you what it is. I don't care, but
okay.
If you search for Cool Tack on YouTube, It's I'm So Cool, Cool Tack. Somebody else stole that video and uploaded it, but yeah.
That's how it goes on the internet. Yeah, you put something out there thinking it's nothing, and then
it was a joke, stupid song. You know what? I wouldn't even say that's a writing credit, but I'm just throwing it because it'll. Yeah. Anyway,
my girlfriend says it sounds familiar. So maybe we've seen it already. Who knows?
It went viral a long time ago, before viral was a thing.
All the girls.
Sick. So as far as like regarding like the creative process of Miki or Ujuan or you know, all you guys as a whole, did you, being American and like having English as your first language, did that like play a certain role in maybe the songwriting process? Because I know they have that affinity for Western music and stuff, but did you, you know, being who you are, like, did that play any influence into things too?
No, so they were more into like the UK stuff, like UK music. I was more into American stuff. Every time, anything kind of I brought to the table, and I should. So let me just explain. As a present, I gave Ujuan my favorite CD at the time, and when I met him a month after giving that to him, Miki told me that it sucked.
Oh no!
And Ujuan said, "Well, I liked it," and then Miki cut him off and said it sucked. So in that regard, yeah. So they didn't really. They weren't influenced by me or anything. And you know, that's a weird thing. Like, they were my heroes, so who am I to like push anything on them, right? It actually hurt me that they said that something I liked so much sucked. But you know, I didn't like a lot of the stuff that they listened to either. But they were mostly influenced by the last time we were hanging out, they were listening to a band called The Rapture. I think I sent you the link to one of their songs, and we would open to that song. But in the studio, like I said, I would spend weeks working on like my own interpretations of Guitar Vader songs, and I would say 7, 8 out of 10 times they would ignore it. But then sometimes Ujuan would be like, "That was fucking cool. Keep doing that." And that made it all worth it when that happened.
Yeah.
A song you listen to a few hundred times and you get to put your own little spin on it. It was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. Do you know what songs those might have been?
Yeah, you can hear it and Yawarakaku on YouTube. There's a video of us practicing before the crowd shows up. At the end of it, I added a little like at the end, and that was one of the specific things I remember Ujuan really liking.
Oh, cool!
And if you asked me to play it today, I'd have to. I have no idea what I was doing, but he liked it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That song just I don't know. It's a special song for me, and it's just interesting that like, I don't know. A lot of things are like tying through it.
Yeah, if you listen to the CD track, you won't hear it. If you listen to that recording, you'll hear it, and that's the only one that's recorded I can speak to.
Okay, I'll give it a shot after this for sure. So at these shows and stuff, did you have a favorite memory from that? Any like thing crazy? So a few things. First of all, did you have like just a general memory, like something that really crazy that happened? Do you have a favorite moment from it? And sort of talking about these things, did you have any bands that opened for Guitar Vader that like you were like were favorites of yours, or did you open any bands open for Guitar Vader that was like interesting?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I actually don't really remember the first Guitar Vader show that I played. I remember it was cheaper to rent a studio to practice if you went from midnight till like 5 a.m.
Oh.
So my first bunch of rehearsals with Guitar Vader were long, like 5-hour sessions from midnight till 5 a.m. And we would play all night, rehearse the songs. I don't remember the first show, or maybe it is the first show. I don't remember. I think we played Shinjuku Jam. And that was it was my first or second concert. And it was a big deal because I think the drummer from Zazen Boys was the main act that night, and we opened for that. And I remember a friend of Guitar Vader was making comments before we played, and just like, just giving me shit about whether I could do it or not. And then at the end of the night, he was like, "Hey, you did a good job." And I remember that being really, really cool. Other moments, like we had the one-man show for Happy East, which was cool because it was packed and sold out. We had projector screen behind it, and there's some videos of that show on YouTube. I have the whole thing. I've never uploaded it because I don't like some of the sound recording on it. But actually, I think my favorite memory was the last show we played, and I didn't know it was going to be the last show. But the only reason Ujuan took the gig was because for months before that concert happened, I was really into this band called Mother Coat, and they were up and coming at the time, and they kicked ass. And I said I like prog music, and Mother Coat kind of reminded me of prog music. They had, they had some really long, epic songs, a lot of time changes, and they were just really unique. And I had been trying to sign them to Japan Files for a long time, or maybe they had been signed at that time, but for whatever reason, Ujuan took this gig because Mother Coat was going to play, and they opened for us. And I remember being backstage with Mother Coat, which is a weird thing, right? Because, I was just a fan of them, but it was cool being backstage with them. It kind of made me feel like equals to them, even though I never felt that way. Just to be backstage with them and to be playing a show. And that was a really awesome show because we were all so used to each other and everybody cut loose. And I wish, if there was a Guitar Vader show that I wish everybody could have seen, it would have been that one. Because I had mentioned earlier, I think we had talked about this, but there was a show at some point in the career, I don't remember, but in the middle of us playing, where Ujuan had had a couple, too many beers, hanging out with his friends, having a good time. He forgot the lyrics to Super Brothers on stage, and he cut the band off halfway through and walked off. It was a big deal for us, but for the fans, I don't know. It was weird. We just stopped the song halfway through and walked off. I didn't know what happened. And, we went backstage, and Ujuan had forgotten the lyrics or forgotten how to play it because he had, and I don't remember him being drunk, but, he just had like a brain fart. And I remember Miki just berating him for like 10 or 15 minutes. And it was this awkward silence while she yelled at him. So turning back to that, the last show was awesome because Ujuan didn't care anymore. Nobody cared. Like, nobody was afraid of having a couple drinks. Everybody was having, every Guitar Vader show was like a rehearsed, forced, serious thing. Like we were, going to play Madison Square Garden or something like that. And we didn't have any fun. We didn't have any fun before. We didn't have any fun after. And that last show, nobody gave a shit anymore. So Ujuan had fun. I had fun. Everybody except Miki had fun. And man, we kicked ass that night. I just remember headbang. Everybody cut loose. Like everybody was going for it. And it was the best show we ever had. And I felt at the time that the band was going to keep going in that direction. Like we're so comfortable with each other that we were just going to go on like that and get better. And, Ujuan got sick, even Miki was cool with that show because, we kicked ass. And Yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling now, but that's I want to try and explain why that was such a special show at the end.
Yeah, no, I mean that's awesome. I see what you mean. Yeah, I wish I could have been there, frankly. um, I think we've really gone through most of the questions I had prepared. Is there any other stories or like things you want to like mention before we close it out? Anything you want to let the fans know specifically?
I don't know, man. There's always going to be something that I'll remember later. Um, Guitar Vader was a really cool thing. I would consider myself the biggest fan at some point. I don't really listen to Guitar Vader stuff anymore because I sat in those studios and played those songs hundreds of times. And when you get to know your heroes, it's not all it's been up to be. That doesn't mean that I'm not saying anything negative about Ujuan or Miki. It's just they're normal people like the rest of us. They were super passionate about the stuff that they did. And, if you were to go join Radiohead today, you'd be at first excited about hanging out with Radiohead. But when brass tacks and you have to, play with them and you'd see that it's not, it's more, they take it more seriously. I don't know what I'm getting at here, but it's
your relationship changing.
Yeah, so that when people are like, "Oh, you talk with Ujuan and Miki anymore?" Like, well, no, I don't. It was more like a business relationship. They weren't my friends anymore. If with Japan File stuff, if money didn't come in and it was 2 weeks later, whatever, even though I had no control over it, Ujuan would call me upset, like, where's my money? That type of thing. When business mixes with it, it wasn't like being, and we had good times too. Don't get me wrong, but at the bottom of it, I came in as a fan and I left as like a business partner. And I kind of wish it wasn't that way. I kind of wish I was still just a fan and I didn't get to meet my heroes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, speaking at least for myself, I'm sorry you had that experience, but we're happy that, I don't know, you sort of are this representative almost of Guitar Vader in the West, because like you said, Miki and Ujuan want to put it behind them. Suzuki seems to be putting it behind himself a bit more, and then there's a whole ocean between fans and Suzuki. So you are appreciated and valued. Just, being who you are and what you did. So I just want to
No,
put that
I
out there.
appreciate that. Look, if you guys want to meet Suzuki, I'll set that up. If you go to Japan, just let me know.
We would love to.
You'll need a translator.
Yeah, everything I've learned up to this point has been through Google Translate. It does a decent enough job, but face to face, I don't know. We might need your help on that.
If I'm there and you're there, we'll set it up.
Sweet. All right, man.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much again. Keep in touch, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to end these things.
No, it's cool, man. I appreciate your passion for setting this up. And
yeah, man.
Dude, you remind me of me, honestly, man. Like, that's how I ended up in the band. Everything you're doing now, like, I keep telling my buddy Dave here, I'm like, this guy's crazy. Like, I can't believe he's going this hardcore into it. But I understand that the same way you see all these things behind me, right? So music is my hobby, and it moves on to other things. So I'm appreciative that you're that into it, and keeping it going. And anything I can do to help, I'm happy to. And if anybody can get Guitar Vader on Spotify, go for it, because I want to add it to my playlist as much as anybody.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, man. That means a lot to me. I'm just passionate about, making sure people don't lose access to this stuff. It's good music, and it's, a lot of stories. So, thank you so much, man. Well, you and I will stay in touch, and we'll continue to get this stuff put out there. And yeah.
Sounds good.
Take care. Take care to your friend.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
Peace out.
All right. See you.